if you're great friends with your spouse, that doesn't guarantee that everything else is perfect. But if you are not great friends with your spouse, that definitely indicates something is very wrong.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Your Bold Marriage Podcast. Today we're going to talk about friendship.
Love it. You're my best friend.
Specifically, what it means to be friends with your spouse, why it's important to be friends with your spouse. We're probably going to get into almost like the necessity of being friends with your spouse, right? Because I think we've talked about this a lot. Like friendship can change over years, and it's a risk to fall out of friendship with your spouse, right? Like it can easily happen.
I think so. I mean, and the one thought, if you're great friends with your spouse, that doesn't guarantee that everything else is perfect. But if you are not great friends with your spouse, that definitely indicates something is very wrong and that it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
You know,
I think we would make the argument, we're going to talk about this a lot, like the thought of, oh, I married my best friend. Like, I think you hear that a lot, or at least when people are dating, oh, why are you guys getting married? Like, oh, they're my best friend, right? Like but then I think on the flip side of that, like you were saying, there's that friendship can erode. Number one, we've heard people say, well, I wasn't really friends with them. Maybe there's other relationship pressures of why you get married. So I think we're going to talk about all of those things. So maybe like break down like we have here to talk about today, like without friendship, you're probably not having fun. You're likely to drift into like roommate territory, right? Where you're just cohabiting adults. You're not actually friends. You're not going out on dates. You're not taking trips and making memories together. It's all about adulthood responsibilities.
well, and think about it this way. So in any other relationship, would you really enjoy spending time with someone who's not your friend?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Think about that. And people say, oh, you can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends. And like, those are the people you really want to be with. That should be your spouse.
Your spouse, yeah.
Because you choose your spouse. It's not like it's forced on you.
Right.
But I think your point is really valid that you can be great friends and then things in life can erode it. And so that's kind of a point we want to talk about too, is how to develop one if you don't have it, a friendship, or maintain one that you already have, or get one back that you lost.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really think the argument, I like you have it in our notes here, that friendship is the glue that holds a marriage together. And I think, that's maybe debatable a little bit. There's a lot of things that could be the glue that holds, but it's one of the,
one
it's
of
a
the
nucleus.
Glues.
Yeah. It's one of the glues. It is part of the nucleus of what holds a marriage together is anchoring on friendship. I butchered that word. Sorry. Here's a statistic I'm going to share here for everybody. I know we both had looked at this. A University of Denver study found that the correlation between fun and marital happiness is significant. I know for those that are like very objective statisticians out there, the word significant is a little subjective, right? But I think the point is that marriages that are having fun, which then creates good memories, is enjoyable, etc. There's a direct correlation to your marital happiness if you're having fun together.
And you are more likely to have fun with your friend.
Right.
I think if you're not friends, you're not having fun. That would be my conclusion.
Yeah.
My opinion.
No, agree.
I think you could maybe create some fun if you have kids and maybe you're not friends with your spouse, but your kids are there and you're having fun. So that can happen. But I think what we're focusing mostly on is, are you and your spouse, if just the two of you are together without your kids, without any other people,
right?
Do you look at this person and say, this is my friend? I would say, you're my best friend. Let's just focus on friends in general for now, because some people have a long way to go to get to best friend. That's the ideal. Don't you agree?
I do. Yeah, I do. I mean, it just logically, you think about who you spend the most time with. I would venture to guess there's no one out there listening who has someone they spend more time with, single person I'm talking about, not coworkers in general or your boss or whatever, but there's probably not a relationship that you have where you're spending more time. I could be wrong. Obviously, like work situations vary dramatically, but the likelihood of you spending most of your time across the span of your life with your spouse more than any other person is obviously very, very high.
You should be.
You have to, if you're not friends with your spouse, let alone best friends with your spouse, you're really missing out
Mhm.
and probably causing a lot of damage, to yourself personally, not just in the relationship. So I also like we talked about fun a little bit and fun being a defensive measure in
Mhm.
your marriage. And I really do believe that it is. It protects against conflict. It protects, like, obviously, there's a host of parenting things that are positively impacted by having fun as a couple. I would argue, we've made this case before, a protective measure against divorce,
Mhm.
definitely against infidelity. So I think the case is pretty, rock solid in terms of the importance of this.
Yeah, and I think just for the sake of saying it, trust and safety, that's a top priority, and then
Mm.
friendship follows right after. So if those things are lacking, this will be a hard concept to maybe get around. That might
Yeah.
need to be your starting point, your focus. But in the
Is on
event,
what specifically?
trust and
Trust and
safety.
safety.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the event that you have those things, we need to focus now on friendship and
Okay.
maintaining those things. But okay, how do we become friends? You don't want to skip that and just focus on friendship.
Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
that's lacking, make that your
You're not gonna
top
be able to build a
priority,
friendship. Okay.
but
No, I see what you're saying.
okay, so let's get into a little bit more. We know why friendship's important. I think
Mm-hmm.
we've covered that.
Yep.
Um, I think the good news is that fun and playfulness and friendship can be cultivated at any stage and at any age. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care if you're 25, you just got married, or you're 55. Don't
Mm-hmm.
you agree?
I do.
What
Yeah.
other thoughts do you have on that?
Well, I think I kind of put it into a couple categories. It's if you are already friends with your spouse and you feel like, oh, this isn't an area that we struggle with. Okay, great. Congratulations. Like, that is
Mhm.
awesome.
Mhm.
And I think there's still nuggets in here for those people, which I'd put us in that category. Like, how can we stay friends together as spouses? Like, that kind of, in my mind,
That's good.
is the objective for those people. Then I think there's maybe three categories. The other one perhaps is you've never had that foundation.
Mm.
And like I mentioned, you got married for other reasons. And we know societal pressure, parental pressure, just insecurities. There's
Mm.
countless reasons people get married that aren't the greatest reasons perhaps,
Yeah.
but okay, you got to start from ground zero on building a friendship with your spouse.
Mm.
And then there's the other category, which I think you were just talking about, which is been married for any length of time, fill in the blanks, and you've lost that
Mm.
friendship, whether
Mhm.
it's eroded trust issues, changing tastes over time.
Not prioritizing
Yeah,
fun and
good point.
friendship and time together.
Great
That'll
point.
kill it.
So I think, yeah, maybe like breaking down those three categories, I think the point we would make, and I know you agree with me, is that no matter which category you fall into there that we just mentioned, there's definitely hope, right? I mean, restoration, recovery, that's possible. I like,
Yeah.
just real quick, and then I'll throw it over to you. You can talk about the next point, but we talked about statistic a little bit on the University of Denver study. We plug John Gottman a lot,
Mhm.
relationship expert. I know you being a therapist, you're more familiar with his work, but John Gottman found that friendship predicts about 70% of marital satisfaction.
Wow. That's a big
Just think
number.
about that. 70% of marital
Yeah.
satisfaction can be predicted by friendship.
Wow.
So
No wonder I'm
there's
so
the case.
satisfied.
There's the case for being friends with your spouse. Like,
Mm.
if you're questioning what we're saying, like,
Yeah.
there's the case to be made by relationship experts. So
And he does a lot of research.
right,
Like, he's got a lot of research to
right,
back these things up.
right, right.
So, what does it require? What
Hmm.
would you say it requires, like, to be friends?
Yeah.
That's hard to answer, probably.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of people talk about marriage being work. Marriage is hard work. I mean, I hear that a lot. We hear that a lot, and I think there's a lot to unpack even in that phrase. But
Mm.
I think when you're friends with someone, the words I come to my mind is like kind of effortless.
Mhm.
And maybe as I get older, I change my mind about that. Like, friendship, especially for the guys out there, it takes a lot of work because I can easily
Oh.
avoid
Mhm.
socializing with anybody really and just enjoy time by myself when I'm not working. But that's a different topic. But I think in the reality is it should be effortless. But I think fun,
Well, can I
effortless.
say something?
Yeah.
Because that whole hard work, that can get rub me the wrong way too, because it's like makes it sound so,
Mm,
you know, I think intentional focus is more what comes to my mind. You're intentional and you're focused on it,
mm.
but it's effortless and enjoyable if it's done properly.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
that makes any sense,
It
but
does. Yeah.
versus painting it as, oh, it's so hard, it's so much work, it's so much this and that. That sounds very like exhausting.
Right.
It should not be exhausting.
Yep.
If it's exhausting, there's deeper issues going on that need to be
Hmm.
figured out.
Yeah. I
If
agree.
your friendship is exhausting.
Right. No, of course. Of course I agree. And I think that's a good point to make about what gets people into trouble is when they feel that exhaustion and that
Mm-hmm.
fatigue from their spouse. So I think I guess going back to answering your question, I think it's having fun. It's minimal effort required, right, to maintain and keep it. Sharing hobbies, maybe joking around, laughing, inside jokes, things like that, making memories together. Those are some of the
Mm-hmm.
things that come to my mind. And even like being intentional. I think friendship is intentional.
Mm-hmm.
If you going back to my point about taking it outside of a marriage and trying to build friendships, like when you're married, you have kids, you have a busy job, you got to be intentional with what limited free time you have
Mm-hmm.
if you want to have friendships. And like I'll raise my hand first, and like I don't do a good job of that at all, but I do with you. Like we do together. But I think if you have that philosophy outside of your marriage with, okay, I want to invest in the guys and, go golfing or fishing or poker night or whatever, or same with women. Well, okay, think about that same concept of how you invest in those friendships and put some of that energy into your
Mm-hmm.
partner, right?
Well, and that kind of like, so scheduling play
Yeah.
and not just work. You cannot have it all be about responsibility and schedules and things you have to do. You need to focus on things you want to do also
Mhm.
that are enjoyable, that bring laughter and pleasure,
Yeah.
because that is when you think about friendships outside of your marriage, that's what you're focused on. It's
Right.
a little bit it can be easier because you don't have to worry about all the other things that
Mhm.
go on. It's just for fun.
Mhm.
So putting that into your marriage, hey, what are we going to do this weekend? That's fun, not just chores around the house in your free time. And I think a lot of couples fall into that trap of
What do we have to get
chores,
done?
responsibility, yeah, versus let's just do
Great
fun
point.
things and enjoy being together,
Mhm. And I know we could talk
you
about,
know?
we're going to make probably several episodes about this, but dating falls in the friendship category too. I know that's
Mhm.
kind of like, that gap. To me, going on dates is sort of like that gap bridge between romance that obviously every marriage needs as well. That's
Mhm.
another one of the glues, as you said earlier, romance in your marriage, but then it strengthens your friendship
Mhm.
too. I mean, when you think about like when you and I were dating, you spend all those dates getting to know the person, and I
Mhm.
think everyone can relate, to this that's listening. Think about that in the context of dating. You kind of built the friendship. Maybe you already were friends.
Mhm.
Maybe you didn't know your spouse before you started dating. We started dating very early on, so it was like we were becoming friends and becoming romantic partners at the same time. So I think maybe that's a good point to make. Like, we're not going to go too far off topic into dating and what that looks like, but I think dating fosters that friendship,
Mhm.
and you
Mhm.
gotta you
Mhm.
gotta invest in that. So,
Well, and one thing you mentioned before, I want to jump back to about it being effortless. I
hmm
I agree. Like I think of our friendship as effortless because I
hmm
love you, I love being with you, and we have fun, and there's safety and trust and
yep,
all the things. I do think when people either lost it or they've never had it in the beginning, it is a lot of effort at first,
hmm
and then it should become that effortless thing that you're focused on. Does that make sense?
yeah, it does. Yeah,
Because I
no,
think it
that's a
can be
great
really
point.
hard at first if you're sorting through a lot of I think it should be effortless when you first meet and you don't have any serious baggage and you're compatible with someone.
hmm
I think the problem is some people marry people they're not compatible with, that
Right.
they you might have a really hard time becoming friends
Yeah.
in that case if that's you, and it might take a lot of effort and a lot of work. Do I think you could do it?
hmm Of
Yeah,
course.
I think there's always hope, but I don't know. I'm rambling about that, but
No, I think you're right. And one thing I think that I want to have a conversation, I want you to share your opinion on, and I'll share a quick story of a friend of mine, but the maybe jumping off topic a tad. What about the people? This is a common thing. I really believe it. We've heard it. I know it exists. I don't have a lot in common with my spouse. And I'll give some context. Like, interest in entertainment and shows. That seems to be a topic that comes to my mind, which I could make the argument, like in the grand scheme of things, like how important is it that you like the same, that you like to binge watch the same show? But I digress. I
why
think,
we shouldn't be binge watching that much though.
but
We agree
but
on
I
that.
do think that's like, okay, I'll use an example we've heard. Like, wife A likes reality TV shows and could spend a couple hours watching those on Friday night. Husband A is college sports junkie, and the two of them, maybe they seem like they're at odds together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Saturday rolls around in the fall, on a Saturday, college football. Where do you where do you draw the line of, like, because you've heard that too, like
Mm-hmm.
it's a common thing. I'm sure a lot of people listening are nodding their heads right now. Well, I don't have a lot in common with my partner. In fact, I hate the things that he likes. He plays golf with his buddies and I can't stand it, and blah blah blah. You get the point. But there's some legitimacy to that, right? So what,
I
where's the line?
So if you hate the things your partner loves, there could be a couple of things going on. One could be that you hurt by it because they prioritize it over you and
Mm-hmm.
something needs to change. There
Mm-hmm.
needs to be more
Okay, so that's
balance.
one. Let's come back to that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's one
The
issue.
second issue could be that you are not in a good place toward your partner in general, and you just naturally are going to hate what they love. And you have some maybe resentment, bitterness, issues going on that you need to figure out on your own.
Okay.
So I think those are two things that could be going on. Third thing that's coming to my mind is you're a little selfish and you're not putting priority on, okay, my spouse likes this, but I don't. Like, you play golf. I don't, but I like watching the Masters with you and whatever the other
Mm-hmm.
if I can't the
You're doing great.
the Open.
Yeah.
Now, if you were playing golf every weekend and you were watching golf every weekend,
Mm-hmm.
that would get a little annoying because it might just become too much. So I
Right.
think there's a balance of priority on things you love that maybe your spouse just,
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate any of those things. I'm not,
It's not your
it's not
favorite.
my thing.
Yeah.
So, but finding a way to enjoy the things your spouse loves and have fun with it is a part of marriage.
Oh, I love that. I love that you said that. And I think maybe a twist that I would add, and then maybe let's go back to the first point you mentioned too and unpack some of that. But I think focusing on what you do have in common, and I think listen up very carefully on this point, because that is also a twist on what you were saying. Focusing on the things that unite you, not divide you, I think universally is a great truth to put into practice,
Yeah.
like in your marriage. And that could be across a host of different things: the way you parent, the hobbies that you're interested in, the way you communicate with one another. Like, finding the things that unite you, not divide you, is essential to have a successful marriage. I think the same is true with hobbies. If one of you is like a former college athlete and the other one was musically inclined or just not interested in following sports anymore, well, guess what? Like, that has the potential to be massively destructive.
Yes.
If you can't find, like you were saying, I think you said it perfectly. If you can't find interest that's shared across the two of you, where you each kind of compromise a little bit, like, not good if you can't compromise. And then also similarly, if you're not finding the things that, okay, maybe you don't agree on those things, or maybe your show tastes is different, well, then find the things that you do like to do together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think just what you just said brought something to my mind. Like with the golf thing, I love to bake and cook. And we're not trying to be gender stereotype. Like, this is just a personal thing that we love. I can't even count the seasons and episodes that you've watched with me of holiday baking championship, spring baking championship.
True. Yeah.
Like, all of them.
With the
Summer
kids.
baking, and well, then the kids, as they got older, started to like it too. But
it's a losing battle because our daughters
you do
love
love
that
to
too.
cook. Like, you're great at at that, but you're not baking besides those cinnamon rolls you make every year, but you get into it because I love it. And so, however, we also share a lot of interest in other things that we
Right.
enjoy, and we focus more on that. And
Right.
then we allow each other to be who we are and find enjoyment in those things together, but prioritize what we enjoy together to the point you're making.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we don't resent each other for the things that maybe you like that I don't like, or that I
Right.
like that you're not as into.
Right. Right. Okay, so I want to go back to the first point you said. And again, we're talking about hobbies here and the comment that we don't have that much in common. And you said something about too much priority put on said hobby.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good one to unpack. So why don't you go ahead? Like, what do you mean by that? Or let's give an example of where if taken in the extreme,
Mm-hmm.
like can be largely damaging.
Well, okay. I mean, let's say you love to fish.
Mm-hmm.
I find it very frustrating waiting all day to catch something. And then what if you don't? I'm more of like an impulsive, I want to enjoy, like, fast
Sure.
paced
Yeah.
person. If the only thing you ever wanted to do when we had free time was go fish, that would be frustrating for me. And we'd probably have conflict and issues.
Yeah, for sure.
When we do it the way we do. Or I say, hey, why don't you go out in the morning and then come back, or bring one of our kids who loves to do it.
Right.
That kind of a thing. So I think when you have free time, either husband or wife, whichever, if all you want to do is the thing you like,
Your hobby
that your spouse really isn't really that into, that's not friendship. And that's not loving. And that's going to cause a problem.
I agree. I think that causes friction. And that's, again, in the extreme.
So here's my point to that. If you find yourself wanting to do something all the time without your partner, or that your partner doesn't want to do, you got to think, what is our friendship like? That's not a good sign.
Yeah. Real quick, just because I can't not say this, I think, because we could make tons of jokes, and I almost want to say right now, like, let's be fair to the fellas out there and let's throw one out for the ladies where, there's something that women prioritize. So guys, maybe you can help me out with that in the comments. But no, seriously, I think it's important, because you said it earlier, it is very important that you each are generous towards each other. And this is a little off topic of friendship, so just bear with me. But it is so important that you allow each other the space to pursue hobbies that you're interested in. And I think that is vitally important. Well, that's the point I'm making, with balance. If you used to go on long runs, let's say, and that was important to you, and then suddenly
until my knees got bad,
marriage and family and kids and all the things, work stress, serving at church, all the sports and practices and music lessons that your kids are in, and all of a sudden, like, you don't have time to go out on those long runs that you enjoyed, or again, fill in the blank with the hobby of your choice. Your partner owes it to you, and you owe it to your partner to find that space where you each can pursue things. So guys, if that means you like to golf, well, maybe you scale it back, because you have to be fair to your family and your wife, and you have to prioritize your marriage. But it doesn't mean you should have to, like, have that hobby die off. And I think this is like,
that's not fair.
It's not fair. And I think this is where balance and compromise comes in. And I know we talked about the things that unite, but you have to leave room for individuality, because otherwise, and this is where it gets into your second point that you made, which we'll bring up here in a second, about underlying resentment. If there was something that I love to do so passionately, and then suddenly I don't at all because of my partner, that could develop bitterness, resentment. Look what I gave up in order to make you happy. Like, that's not good. And so I think that room for individuality and pursuing hobbies and interests, like, has got to be there. But and then I'll let you comment. It's got to be shared, though. Like, and I think someone who's always giving and then the other person's always taking, and it's not reciprocated, not good.
Well, and I think what I was going to say is bitterness, resentment, unforgiveness literally kills friendship, and a lot of other things. There are a few things as detrimental. So, and we're going to talk about that soon.
Yeah. Well, talk quickly though about you said a few minutes ago that one of the underlying issues of why you may not be friends anymore and finding hobbies together is is that there's bitterness and resentment underneath all of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think with the bitterness, resentment, that goes into a much deeper topic. That's where if you find it hard to be friends with your spouse, you need to ask, am I bitter? Am I resentful? Do I have unforgiveness?
Mm-hmm.
Has something happened that I've not gotten over, that I've not been able to forgive? Figure out what that is, and going to like thinking about prayer and God works every time. Go to God and ask him, am I bitter or resentful? Am I not forgiving? In my personal experience, if I ask that question, he always shows me,
Yeah.
because his will is for us to be in a place of forgiveness.
Yeah, that's
I've
good.
never had him silent on that topic. He doesn't have to answer us on a lot of things, but when I say, is there anybody or my spouse, anyone else that I need to forgive who I'm holding bitterness or resentment, he always brings it to my mind. And then it's, okay, what do you do next? Which we're going to get into that in
Separate episode.
another
Yeah.
episode. But forgiveness, dealing with underlying resentment is key to being able to be friends with your spouse again.
Yeah.
That's just what I've seen.
Letting go of that, you're saying?
Yeah,
Recovering from
forgiving,
it?
healing. You might
Yeah.
need to heal. You might find some things you need that have not healed yet that you need to heal from.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll need to talk to your spouse about it. You might need extra help, and you need to forgive once you've gotten there, because forgiveness, you can't ignore the pain or not heal. Like that's a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can focus on, and that kind of goes back to what I said in the beginning about trust and safety.
Yeah.
When there's resentment and bitterness, you are not
There's not
trusting.
trust.
There's
Yeah.
no trust. So,
No, that makes
anyways.
sense. No, that's good. That's good. So maybe to move towards like taking action. So, okay, we've unpacked a lot there. I think there's a lot of goodness in what we've talked about so far. So if your friendship is gone, or maybe it's never been there, fill in the blank. If your friendship isn't there, isn't what you want it to be, how do you get it back? And I think maybe I'll take the first kind of thought here. To me, right off the bat, you gotta immediately go back to like, where did we go wrong? Why? And then what did we enjoy doing together?
Yeah. What was it like when I did consider you my friend? What was different? Be self-aware. Think through it. What were we doing differently? I think that's key. If you did have a friendship and now you don't, like, what were we doing? What was it about our time then that was different than it is now? What did we enjoy? What did we love to do together? What made us laugh? What made us happy in friendship?
The actual activities that we did too. I think that's part of it also. I mean, did you try a new restaurant every Friday night? Did you go to the movies every once in a while? Did you work out together? Did you walk on the beach? Did you play in a softball co-ed league together? I mean, all these things that probably, if your marriage is lacking friendship, my bet would be that those of you listening are immediately having some thoughts come into your mind where it's like, I would even be honest and say, maybe I'll backtrack a little bit. It doesn't even need to be if your friendship's gone. That you could be triggered by some of the things we're saying right now. And you and I have talked about this, like, oh, remember when we used to do X, Y, Z? I wonder why we don't. And sometimes it's literally, I actually don't know why we don't do that anymore. That was really fun. Or we got busy, or, oh, well, it's not, maybe as kid friendly, or whatever the reason is. I can't even think of an example, but I know that it's happened to us. So I think everybody listening is probably having some immediate thoughts of things they enjoyed with their partner. Could have been a year ago. It could have been 10, 20, 30 years ago. There are things that are going to come to your mind that you no longer do, that you enjoyed, that brought you close together. And now you don't have that. So,
yeah. And another thing with friendship also involves communication, talking about various things, about letting each other in on everything. Like, I think about growing up, you had a best friend as a kid. You could sit there, at least for girls. I don't again, I don't want to gender stereotype, but we could sit there and talk all day about everything. So it's like, for you and me, that's what we do. We communicate about everything. And it can't just be about difficult things. If you find that the only things you're talking about are really heavy, hard things, that's not good. Like, lighthearted communication, or like, hey, this thing happened at work. What do you think about this? Like, that is what friends do.
And then don't you think also on the flip side, if all you're talking about is lighthearted, funny things, and you're never having deep conversations or spiritual conversations, like that's not good either, right?
No, the guy,
Yeah.
that is such a good point. Because best friends, they go deep too.
Yeah. I think
Love
I
that.
think you bringing up communication. I mean, we didn't even have that in our outline. I feel like that's probably a miss. We could have really talked about that a lot more earlier on. But I think you bring up such a good point. Like you gotta have conversations,
Mm-hmm.
and I think necessary for friendship, even more necessary in a marital relationship. You gotta have open communication, and so I think if you're doing things together and you're having fun together, okay, great, checking those boxes, but you got to integrate like true openness,
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability, open communication, talk about life together.
Yeah.
So if you've lost that, I would almost say like that's the starting point is you
Mm-hmm.
got to start letting each other into your lives. Talk about
Yep.
your work, talk about the kids, talk when the kids go to sleep or depending on the ages of your
Mm-hmm.
children if you have them.
And there might be a lot of heavy conversations that you've ignored that have not happened that need to happen before you can get to that fun, lighthearted
Right.
place. I
Agree.
would argue that it should be simultaneous. So, like, while that's occurring, just find things that you can enjoy that are lighthearted and fun to get a
Mhm.
break from maybe some
The
of the heavy
heaviness,
things
yeah.
if you haven't gone there in a while and it's like, hey, I can't really be your friend until we
Yeah.
till we talk through these things and we deal with, like, again, the resentment, unforgiveness, or any
Mhm.
other things.
Mhm.
Um,
Agree.
so mi- do both if you
Mhm.
can.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
I think the other thing too is like we talked a little bit about dating, but maybe in like what, so again, we're talking about how do you get your friendship back or how do you
Mm-hmm.
keep building on your friendship is like a mix of, we talked about this a little bit, scheduled versus spontaneous. And I think that's really important. That could
Mm-hmm.
be unpacked on a dating topic for sure in a little bit more detail. But
Yeah.
when you get too rhythmic in your life, kind of boring, and everyone's different, by the way, just caveat. But that can become very mundane and maybe like one partner or the other is going to like fight
Mm-hmm.
against that. And then if you're too spontaneous, that can create
Mm-hmm.
issues too. So,
Great point. One thing that's coming to my mind is, maybe I mentioned this before, but if you have kids and your life revolves around your kids and one of you is left behind,
mm, mhm,
um, that's going to destroy the friendship. So you, as hard as it is, I know there's so much going on, prioritize time alone together to
mhm,
communicate, to do fun things. Of course, a lot of the fun you're going to have, your kids are going to be there and involved with you because that's life.
right.
We don't leave our children behind. But figuring out a way to have alone time, like you and I in the summer, we'll swim all day with the kids. We have
Mhm,
so much fun, and then they go to sleep. And then there's nights where it's like, oh, let's get back, let's go swim again. Just the two of us. We put music on, we're swimming, we're hanging out.
mm,
So it's like
yeah,
intentional. You have to plan, you have to be intentional. And then I love what you said about spontaneous,
yeah,
but a lot of it is going to have to be planned because
yeah,
that's how life goes and it's hard. Um, and if it's uncomfortable for one of you, you got to do it anyway.
mhm, mhm,
Marriage is about pushing through your selfishness and your own feelings. And then I've seen the people who do that who are like, oh, I like my schedule and my rhythm, and but then they get out of their comfort zone. They're so glad they did. So they're like, oh
that's a
my
good
gosh, I
point.
actually feel closer to my partner now. I actually am having fun with them. I didn't realize I needed this.
Right. Yeah, so I think to your point, if the friendship has eroded or changed at all, the chances are very high that that's probably happening, right? Like one of
Yeah.
the two partners is, or if not both, is unwilling to give up their rhythm and their routine and the way they
Mm-hmm.
like things to go, and it's creating some challenges, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Okay. So to recap, maybe just to bring this to a close, so we talked about with statistics that friendship indicates marital satisfaction. We
Mm-hmm.
talked about how Gottman's studies show that having fun together, highly correlated to friendship, of course, indicates marital happiness 70% of the time. We talked about why it's important if you were friends and you've lost that edge, why it's important to get it back. If you've never been friends with
Mm-hmm.
your partner or not to the level that you think you should, it's critically important to invest in it.
Yep.
Um,
We mentioned how if you're not friends, if there's bitterness, resentment, unforgiveness,
mhm,
that kills friendship.
yeah.
It needs to be addressed
And
in order
finding,
to get that back.
yeah. And finding things that unite you, not divide
Mm-hmm.
you. Maybe, how about leaving some action steps for
Yeah.
the listeners? What do we have for them
Um,
this week?
I would say talk about it. If you feel like you are still friends,
Mm-hmm.
great. How can you further prioritize it? How can you build it? How can you continue to grow it? What are things you could do? And then if you've lost it or you never had it, talk about why that is. Maybe what did you used to enjoy together? Where did it go wrong? What could
Mm-hmm.
you do differently going forward? Plan intentionally something fun that you could do together that could start building, communicate.
Mm,
Maybe it's like we
that's
just
good.
haven't talked in a long time. What do you need to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
Be open and available to each other to communicate.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
What
I
would you
agree.
add?
I like that you talked about the communication piece. And you even mentioned this earlier where it can be integrated into the fun and the things that you're having. If you go out on a date, you're obviously going to communicate with one another no matter what you're doing,
Not
really.
just heavy.
Right. And I think having fun, just spending time
Mm-hmm.
together. And I mean, we have in our notes here, like at least one night this week, like do it this week. Don't wait. Don't
Yep.
schedule something like, oh, at the end of the month, let's, go out and get dinner and talk about our friendship. Like, no, plan for it this week. It can
Yeah.
be, I would argue it should be every day. You should
Yeah.
be fostering that
Yep.
friendship, but I'm
Agreed.
talking about intentional time together where you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about this topic that we've
Mm-hmm.
covered today.
And ask yourself, have I hindered my partner's love for something? Have they done that to me? Communicate,
On the
give each other,
hobbies
yeah.
topic.
Have I tried to enjoy things they enjoy? That is part of
It's a good
friendship too,
challenge.
with balance, like we talked about.
Right. Those are some great action steps. I agree completely. We hope this really reached you this week. Thanks for checking it out. Please subscribe, give us a review if you could, and we'll catch you on the next one. Oh, and by the way, hello@littlebookboldmarriage.com. If you want to leave any questions, topics we should talk about, just any feedback in general, we'd love to hear from you. And thanks. Have a great week.